Good afternoon, everybody. Anthony Aniano from Rotoballer Radio and Rotoballer.com here with you to take a look at the early Week 6 waiver wire at the quarterback position. As always, recording this Sunday evening before the Sunday night and before the Monday night football game. Yahoo roster percentages are the talking point we always use for these videos, so just be mindful of that. Week 6, don't forget, 4 teams on a bye. Detroit Lions, Houston Texans, Vegas Raiders, and Tennessee Titans, which means no Jared Goff, no Davis Mills, no Derek Carr, no Ryan Tannehill at the quarterback position. Russell Wilson, who's been terribly ineffective after the Thursday night game, had a shoulder procedure. We'll see what his status is for the next couple of weeks. Teddy Bridgewater already filling in for Tua. He leaves the game against the Jets on Sunday for a concussion protocol. Following the concussion protocol, I guess you could say. They said he passed, but under the new protocol, he couldn't return to the game. So, that being said, we are in desperate need maybe of a quarterback. So at number 5, Zach Wilson of the New York Jets, 14% rostered. He's averaging 17 fantasy points over his last 2 games since coming back from injury. 210 yards and a rushing touchdown this week against Miami. 14.6 fantasy points in a 6-point per passing touchdown format. On the road next week against the Green Bay Packers after they were just upset by the New York Giants. The one thing I do like about Zach Wilson, he has weapons around him now. Garrett Wilson, Elijah Moore, Corey Davis, Breece Hall was explosive, and Michael Carter ran for 2 touchdowns. So the Jets offense has pieces for Zach Wilson to grow with as the season goes on. At number 4, Daniel Jones of the New York Giants, 22% rostered, and what makes him interesting is his ability to run the ball. He ran the ball 10 times on a bad ankle Sunday morning in London. 10 times for 37 yards, threw 27 times, 21 completions for 217 yards, and be mindful of the fact he has no wide receivers to throw the ball to. Eventually, Kadarius Toney and Wan'Dale Robinson returned from injury, and finally giving Daniel Jones some weapons other than Saquon Barkley on the offensive side of things. He had 12.4 fantasy points, but what do I like? I like his matchup against the Baltimore Ravens. I just keep going back to week 2 and what Tua was able to do to them. You can throw the ball on this Ravens secondary. At number 3, probably the least popular player I could put on this list, but you can't ignore the fantasy points. Forget about regular season and wins and losses, but Carson Wentz is 46% rostered. 25 of 38 this week. Second most passing yards of the afternoon games, 359 passing yards, second only Josh Allen. Obviously, that can change based on what happens Sunday and Monday night. 2 touchdowns, and obviously the costly interception late in the game for Washington. Okay, he's got weapons. Jahan Dotson was out this week. Diami Brown had a big game in his place. Terry McLaurin, Curtis Samuel, we know all of this. Carson Wentz in a 6-point per passing touchdown league went for 30.9 fantasy points. That's 3 games in 5 of 30 or more fantasy points. He's on the road against the Bears in week 6. At number 2, Jimmy Garoppolo of the 49ers, 26% rostered, 253 yards and 2 touchdowns in their win against the Carolina Panthers. 22 fantasy points. Love the matchup next week in the Dome against the Atlanta Falcons. That defense doesn't scare anybody, so it's a good spot for Jimmy G to put up another safe floor of 15 to 20 fantasy points. And the number 1 ad at the quarterback position for week 6, same as last week, Geno Smith of the Seattle Seahawks, 34% rostered. He's got 4 games this season of 20 or more fantasy points, 25 or more fantasy points each of the last 3 games, 30 or more fantasy points each of the last 2. Okay, he had finished with 30 fantasy points this week, 268 yards, 3 touchdowns. DK Metcalf, Tyler Lockett getting in the end zone. He's been fantastic. Okay, and he goes against the Arizona Cardinals in week 6. And he'll be in lineups when you consider injuries and buys. So to recap, the waiver wire for week 6 at the quarterback position, number 5, Zach Wilson. Number 4, Daniel Jones. At number 3, Carson Wentz. Number 2, Jimmy Garoppolo. And the number 1 quarterback to add for week 6 of your fantasy football season is Geno Smith. All right, everybody, head over to rotoballer.com. Sign up for our premium package using the promotional code ACES. Save an extra 10% at discount. Take advantage of the lineup optimizers team sync tools, and all the great other options, including all of our waiver wire features. Give me a follow on Twitter at @Aniano Fantasy, and we'll see you next time. Have a good one from Rotoballer Radio, folks.